Hey guys, Tom here again from synthhacker.com. Welcome back to another tutorial for Serum. In this video we're going to be looking at creating the bass sound from a Marshmello remix of Zed's track. I really can't get used to saying the name Marshmello, it's just such a ridiculous artist name, but it's memorable, I'll give him that. But yeah, I actually already did a tutorial using Massive on the lead sound from that, which was the last video uploaded, which you might have seen. But if not, I'll just play through the recreation of the track that I made again. Like I said, this tutorial is going to be on the bass sound that you'll hear. It's like quite a wide, nice, gritty bass sound. Kind of trappy, kind of future bass. It's kind of like a hybrid between the two. And yeah, I'll demonstrate the sound and then we'll get ahead and start making it. So hopefully you like that sound. It's actually quite simple, again using saw waves. The actual like effects and stuff that's going on is quite similar to the Madian bass that I did, but there's a few kind of key differences between that and this one, just to kind of make this one fit this style a little bit more, which I'll go over. But yeah, hopefully like this sounds really cool, nice, wide, thick, kind of like future bass. And yeah, let's go ahead and initialize the preset. As always guys, these videos are supported by my website over at synthhacker.com, or you guys can just click the link in the description down below to go check out my presets for Serum and also Massive as well. So definitely go ahead and do that if you haven't done so already. And yeah, let's go ahead and start making the sound. So we're going to make sure that all the oscillators are switched on, and we're going to pitch them all down -2 octaves. This will depend on the mid notes that you're actually inputting, but as long as they're all the same octave, you should be fine. And also in the sub oscillator, we're just going to turn the level up and make sure that this is going directly out, just to give us some nice kind of solid low end that's going to bypass all the effects and stuff like that. Oscillator A and B are just both going to be using saw waves, but in oscillator B what we're actually going to do is give this 7 voices of unison and detune it slightly. What's really cool with Serum is when it detunes the voices of unison from each other, it also spreads them across the stereo field, so you end up with a nice, really kind of thick bass sound, while still keeping in oscillator A in the sound, still keeping that nice like central mono low end as well as the sub oscillator as well, which is really cool. In the noise oscillator, we're going to be using the analog, the ARP white noise waveform. And what we're actually going to do is set up a separate amplitude envelope for this, because we want it to kind of just be like a short burst of noise at the start of the sound to make it cut through the mix a little bit and fill out the frequency range at the start of the sound. So what we're going to do, we're going to give this a really kind of tight amplitude envelope and just give it a little bit of a release as well, about 80 seconds or so, and then just drag and drop this onto the noise oscillator. For the amplitude envelope, we're going to have kind of a similar envelope, but a little bit thicker, as you can see there, and then just a little bit of release. And we're actually going to be using this envelope to modulate the reverb later on, which I'll get to when we get into the effects section. But next we can move into the filter section. We're using the MG low pass 12 dB filter. We're just going to make sure that oscillator A and B are being routed through the filter. The noise oscillator, we don't want to go through the filter because we want this to create some nice harsh high end at the start of the sound. Not harsh, but like crispy high end. So we're going to make that just completely bypass the filter that we're putting on this sound. The sub oscillator, we don't need to worry about that because that's just going directly out anyway. And then what we're going to do, we're going to boost the drive amount a little bit. In case you don't know, what essentially this drive control does is just add some like color to the sound. I think it's in the MG low pass 12 dB filter, it's kind of emulating the drive, or like overdrive in a filter, in like an analog filter, which is cool. So this will just kind of add a little bit of saturation to the sound and add some color to it. So if I just show you the sound now, it'll sound a bit boring. I'll just quickly show you. So it's definitely missing a lot of movement, a lot of pluckiness, and definitely missing a lot of high end as well. So we'll go ahead and start fixing that. The first thing we're going to do is use another envelope, kind of similar to the amplitude envelope, but in this one we're going to give it a little bit more release. And then we can drag and drop this on the cutoff frequency of the filter. bring the cutoff down a little bit, and then just keep the high end, the modulation amount quite high. And what this means, what this will actually do is mean that at the start of the sound with this envelope, we're going to be hearing some nice crunchy high end, and then over time it's going to like roll off, which gives it that like plucky sound that we want. Moving into the effect section, the first effect we're going to use is the hyperdimension effect. We're going to bring the hyper amount all the way down because we're not using that section of the effect. But what we are going to use is the dimension expander, which is similar to the dimension expander in Massive. Bring the size all the way down and then bring the mix amount up. It does what it says on the tin, really. It's going to make the sound much bigger. And then next, we're going to add some tube distortion, which is, again, we're just going to add a little bit of saturation to the sound with some drive, bring the mix amount down just a little bit as well. And then I actually had a phaser on this sound. I don't typically use phasers that much because a lot of the time I think they can sound a little bit cheesy, and they definitely can if you overuse it. But what I did for this was just bring the mix amount down, and this is just going to add a little bit of movement across the frequency range, but while not sounding too cheesy because we have brought the mix amount down a little bit. The other thing I added, which really makes probably the most difference in the effects section, is the compression. I actually used some multiband compression, which I do believe is emulating Ableton's OTT, or over the top compressor, like multiband compression, which is really, really powerful. I know a lot of artists that actually use that on a lot of sounds to just get absolutely massive sounds. But yeah, make sure this is set on multiband. Bring the threshold down a little bit. We don't want it to be too extreme, so I'm going to bring the ratio down to about 1.71, something like that. Bring the attack back so the compression is starting like quite relatively quickly. Add some release and also add a little bit of gain as well. Not too much because otherwise you'll end up blowing your ears off. But yeah, so that'll make the most difference. I'll quickly show you the effect that this has now. So you can hear that really brings out some of the nice crunchy high end from the sound, that kind of pulling it from what we're getting from the distortion and also the filter as well. The next thing we're going to add is a reverb. We're going to use a trick that I use quite a lot on sounds, where we bring the mix amount down and then use an envelope, usually the amplitude envelope of the whole sound, and then put this on the mix amount. And this is just a really cool kind of like mixing technique, because it just means that whenever the sound isn't playing, the reverb won't be either, which is a really, really cool effect. It doesn't work on like every sound, but I usually think it sounds pretty cool on bass sound, so I'll definitely try that out. We're going to move the size up a little bit, bring the high cut back a little bit, increase the low cut just to take some of the muddiness out. And then finally, just to kind of polish off the sound, we're going to add some high shelf EQ. We're actually going to boost this just a little bit, and this again, it will just help bring out some of the crunchy high end of the sound. And there you go, that's how to create a really nice, wide, thick, kind of like future bass pluck sound. Marshmello's used it in a lot of his tracks, actually. It's kind of zeddy, like how it's like that kind of like razor bass a little bit. That's kind of another variation that he uses of the sound in a lot of his tracks, but usually he uses quite like aggressive bass sounds, which is really kind of what gives him his style, really. These like kind of like trappy beats, but with like more aggressive, like I guess like electro influenced bass sounds. So yeah, hopefully you learned a thing or two from this tutorial. If you did, please do leave a like on the video. Leave any comments, any questions or anything like that down below, or suggestions for future tutorials. This tutorial actually came about from a suggestion that I got through email. So yeah, I do try and read all that. I mean, I do get a lot of suggestions. Like I get at least 10 a day through both comments on YouTube and also emails. So I'm sorry that I can't recreate everything that you guys suggest, but definitely leave some down below, because I'm always looking for new ideas for tutorials and stuff like that. If you haven't subscribed yet, definitely go ahead and do so. And likewise, if you haven't gone and checked out my website yet over at synthhacker.com, definitely go ahead and do that, either by just typing it in or check out the link in the description down below to go check out my presets for Serum. Really do appreciate that. Thanks for all the support so far. My channel's growing really fast recently, which is really cool. So yeah, like thanks a lot, I really do appreciate that. And yeah, that's all from me, guys, so thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.